Jamuted, chat. Jamuted. Okay. Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Dr. Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I am a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. So if y'all have a concern or question, please go see a licensed professional and ask it to them. Do not come to a rando on the internet for medical advice. Super excited today. So we've got another interview, and I think we may be streaming on Monday as well. So I missed y'all so much during vacation that we're going to be streaming a little bit more. It's just how things go, right? So there's random stuff that goes on from week to week. And depending on whether I'm around or not, we're going to be streaming. And if I'm not around, that means that I'm doing other things. So Dr. Rando, financial advisor. Absolutely. So we're going to actually be talking to Jinny today, which I'm super excited about. Super awesome streamer, does a lot of awesome IRL content. And really just interested in learning a little bit more about what her experience of being a streamer is like. And I don't know if we have a particular topic or anything in mind, but I'd say let's hop in. What do y'all think, chat? Shall we hop? Make like bunnies and hop, chat? Okay, awesome. Let's see if that pops up. Hello. Do you mind just counting to 10 for me real quick?
10?
Yes.
What, like 10, 9, 8, 7?
Yeah, perfect.
Like
yeah, great. I was just checking sound. Give me 1 second. Okay, that, once again, never works, which is okay. Give me 1 second, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I still have not figured out how to do something properly on Discord. Let's do that. And I have to fix this every single time. But there we go. Okay.
Yay.
And let me see if I can... I gotta shift something or... I guess it's okay. So, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for talking today.
Thank you for inviting.
Well, can you start by telling me what you prefer to go by? Like, what do you like to be called?
Jinny? Jinny is fine.
Okay. And welcome, Jinny. Is there anything in particular that you want to talk about today?
Something about streaming and how streaming is affecting my life. I don't know. I'm not sure. Just streaming.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I think streaming is great for a lot of people, and it also like affects it shapes people's lives quite a bit once you become a streamer. And so I'd love to talk to you about that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you decided to become a streamer and how you became a streamer?
I think how I became a streamer, it's like not too complicated. It's just like my brother was more into live streaming and watching live streamers, and then I had no I didn't watch live stream that much. I only watched a little bit of like YouTube videos. And my brother suggested like you should become a streamer. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds yeah. So I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. So I just gave it a try. And then that's how I started streaming.
And do you have a sense of what your brother was thinking when he suggested that you became a streamer? Like that's so I've never heard a sibling recommend that.
I think because I used to play game a lot as a kid, and my brother knows that, and then I still played a lot of games. So that's the reason why my brother was like, yeah, if you're gonna like play a lot of games, how about like why don't you just give it a try? But I think also at the same time, maybe I saw some YouTube videos and I was thinking like I want to be a content creator as well. So deep inside, I had that feeling. So that's the reason why when my brother recommended it, I just decided to do it. I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you saw YouTube videos, what appealed to you about content creation? What appealed to you about content creation? Yeah.
I I think so. When I was a kid, I my dream was to become a producer. Like I wanted to create my own content or and on TV. But these days, Twitch like live streaming platform, this kind of stuff is like TV, but having your own channel. So, well, I think that probably is something that was kind of like appealing to me because I wanted to create my own content and then uh, provide audience with whatever I'm thinking and then whatever I want to provide. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's why.
Okay. So it sounds like you were thinking
Yeah,
about making, TV production from a young age. Do you have a do you have a sense of what? Yeah.
kind of.
What do you mean by kind of?
I mean, as a kid, I had a lot of different dreams, not just TV producer, but I wanted to either become a cartoonist, like draw a cartoon, or TV producer, or create a game. So something related to like making something.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
yeah.
something creative, whether it was cartoons
hmm
or and so your brother suggested you become a streamer. And what were you kind of thinking that would
hmm
be like?
Um, I didn't really think much. Like for example, I definitely didn't expect me to become an IRL travel streamer. At first, I just wanted to become a game streamer because, yeah, like I don't know. I definitely didn't expect me to be a travel streamer, of course. But what was the question
Yeah,
again? Sorry.
I was just curious what you
Yeah.
thought about streaming before you started. But hey, well, why don't you
hmm
tell us how did you become a travel
Oh,
streamer?
yeah. Okay. So that's kind of how did I become a travel streamer? So I used to be a PC streamer, like first 2 years, I think,
Mm,
first 2 years, and then I started to have more Taiwanese viewers in the beginning, and then I decided to travel to Taiwan and travel a little bit, stream IRL. And I really enjoyed it, and also my viewers enjoyed it. So I decided to try more traveling because I think in general my audience liked IRL streaming more. And then I kept doing IRL because I want to do what my audience wants to watch, kind of. Yeah.
okay. And so it sounds like you're a travel streamer because you like it, but they like it too.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't be able to travel like nonstop like this if I didn't actually enjoy it because it's really difficult to move around every few days, going outside like in a cold weather or hot weather or something like that. So, like it's very exhausting to basically carrying bunch of like luggages and moving around every 2 or 3 days. So,
Yeah, that sounds
I
like
mean,
quite
I
a
like
bit.
it. Sometimes it's difficult, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's that like carrying luggage? Or I mean, how much stuff do you have? Like, what do you have to carry around if you're a travel streamer?
Mm. So I carry around quite a lot. I used to carry much more. I had like 7 bags or something, but now I
Oh
reduced
wow.
it to still like three bags. Okay, so I had to carry around like my laptop streaming gears and a lot of skincare products because I gotta use Korea skincare product. I gotta use this like specific one, and so I had to like order a bunch and carry it around with me so that I don't run out of it. So that's heavy and a little bit of clothes. I think, but that still is like really big.
Yeah, I can imagine. So that sounds quite
Yeah.
tiring to travel all the time carrying this stuff around.
hmm
How do you manage that? How do you deal with that?
Um, I think I just do it, even though it's like super tiring sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is I'm exhausted. But what other choice do I have? I just gotta keep doing it. So I think that's the thing about me. I don't really care about my body or myself that much. I just like put me in a situation where it's super exhausting for me. And then I just keep persevere through it kind of style.
Yeah. What do you so if you don't care about or prioritize your health, it sounds like, or well-being, what do you prioritize?
Hmm. Um, I think I prioritize my career
Hmm.
for sure. I think, yeah, and I want to grow more as a streamer and content creator, and that is my priority at this moment because, like, as if I get like when I get older, it would be difficult for me to put this much effort into what I'm doing. So while I can, I am trying my best to just like put all the energy into it. So, I can go as far as I can while I'm in this field. Yeah.
So I'm noticing that you're kind of thinking that maybe this opportunity is temporary and you kind of have to make the most of it.
Yeah, because live streaming is not, I don't, especially for a female streamer, I don't see it as a super long uh career that I can like I mean I want to be travel streamer and live streamer as long as I want. I mean as long as possible. But I think it's like kind of compared to other field, I think it's kind of short lifespan
I,
because I don't know, it's changing a lot. It's super competitive and yeah,
what
maybe that's why.
what help me understand why, especially you said like kind of as a female streamer, why does that make it a short
Mm.
career?
Mm, Based on my observation past 6 years of being a streamer, I think a majority of audience, especially on Twitch, is male. And because of that, I think, like, for example, if you are male streamers are successful, I think you can stream for a longer time, for sure. But if you're a female streamer and then if you, I don't know, like, get it if you let's say if you get married or you have kids or something, then I think even though like it's not like viewers want to date the streamer, but still like if as a female streamer, if you are married and you have kids or something like that, I feel like it affects a lot more to female streamer than male streamers based on my observation of like other streamers. So because of that, I feel like in the future if I were to settle down and then get married and have kids, I feel like it would be kind of difficult to stream as much as I'm streaming right now.
Yeah,
So,
I can't. I mean, basically, when you travel around with bags, that sounds like
mhm.
traveling with kids. Like when you've got kids,
Yeah, it's
it's a full time job. They
mhm.
have extra bags that come with them, and I can't imagine doing
Mhm.
that like all the time. Like I
Mhm.
just went on a vacation with my kids, and for 2 weeks it
Mhm.
was a ton. I mean, it was fun, but it was also like really
Yeah.
exhausting. Um,
Yeah. So with kids and live streaming, it's probably
yeah,
impossible.
it does sound pretty. So I mean, that's something I not quite thought about, but it sounds like really if
Mm.
you want to move forward with your personal life, you kind of have to sacrifice your career. Like you can't do both.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Unless like I decided to become gaming streamers or something in the future. I mean, I could keep doing it, but it wouldn't be as successful as right now, that's for sure. But yeah.
Yeah. So
It's like
it
something Mhm.
go ahead.
uh it's something that I have to accept like in the end, like in the future if I want to like change what I'm doing and then decide to like settle down and then play games only, or because I have personal stuff going on, then it would definitely affect what I've built so far.
Okay.
So,
Can I ask kind of like a random question?
yeah, sure.
Can you teach me a little bit about this Korean skincare?
Oh, Korean skincare. I don't really do that much of a skincare, but I just do so I apply serums. So I remove makeup and wash my face, apply toner,
Okay.
and serum, and I do the mask pack, and I fall asleep with it. That's that much.
That's what you
I
do.
mean, there are tons of other people who.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, there are tons of other people who do a lot more. They have like devices to like massage your face or something like that. I have no time for that.
And what
So,
does all that stuff do?
um, moisturizing skin. Protect skins from drying out and and basically have less wrinkles.
Okay. And is your understanding that wrinkles is caused by dry skin?
I think it's I mean, I can see from my hand. So for example, I've been applying tons of serums and stuff ever since I was young, but I never cared about my hand. And I think my face skin is a lot younger than my hand. And
Hmm.
also I don't apply sunscreen too, so it's like hand traveling all the time. So I feel like skincare does really matter to like to stay look young.
Okay. And so like there's serum, there's toner, there's a mask of some
Mhm.
sort.
Yeah,
What
like a moisturizing mask.
and what does the serum do?
It's just like I think it just moisturizes skin. And
Okay.
then they have this good stuff inside that they say it's like really good for skin. And I apply it. I don't really know, but it's just like I do it, and then I mean before I buy it, I see reviews and it's like, yeah, this is really good, and then I buy it and then I use it, and I guess it's more like reduce. It's not like reducing wrinkle. It's more like maintaining, I think.
Maintaining. So preventing the
Hmm.
formation of new wrinkles.
Yes.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So I mean, it sounds like in some ways you take really good care of yourself.
Um, Skin wise, I mean, I used to not care much. So, for example, I would sleep without removing makeup because I'm way too tired. But now I'm 31, so I decided to care better. I mean, I used to fall asleep without removing makeup almost every day, like last year, and then I wake up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and remove and then fall asleep again. Something like that. It happens so often.
Yeah. So it okay. I thank you so much for explaining that. I know that like Korean skincare. My wife uses the stuff too,
Uh,
and there's always
mm-hmm.
packages coming from the internet, and occasionally for like gifts and stuff, I'll like go into some Korean skincare store and I'll just buy some random things. I have no idea what works or what doesn't. Um, but she seems to like it, and so I'm also kind of wondering like I guess dudes
Yeah.
use this stuff too, right?
Yeah, I think dudes should use more stuff to take care of their skin. Whenever I say that to my chat, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's girly. That's too feminine." I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. It's just, taking care of your skin.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going back to the whole career thing. So it sounds like oh, testing 1 2 3.
Hmm.
Okay. So it sounds like you kind of
One,
push
two, three.
yourself
Uh-huh.
pretty hard.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I think
I
got
was just saying
disconnected a little
so
bit.
so it sounds like you push yourself pretty hard.
Yes, I do push myself pretty hard. For some reason, I think it's just like uh I don't know why I do that, but I just love to do more challenging stuff all the time.
How long have you been
And I feel like sort of satisfaction from doing it as well.
Can you tell me about that?
Sorry?
Can you tell me about the satisfaction?
Do I have bad connection right now?
One of us does.
Oh, sure. Um, satisfaction. Yeah, I think my internet is kind of cutting out a little bit. It's just like, for example, when you're playing difficult games like Dark Soul, and then it's so difficult, it's so frustrating while you're doing it, you're so mad. But once you finish the boss, once you kill the boss, you're just like, oh yeah, and then that adrenaline, that happiness, it's kind of like that in life too. Like if I get something too easy, I feel like I didn't earn it, and then I really want to earn it. But even though sometimes I try really hard, the result is not as good. And then that happens, of course, in life. But I think most of the time in my life, if I tried really hard for certain goals, I have uh achieved my goals, and then from that I get like satisfaction. So that that's yeah.
So would you say I mean, so it sounds like you're chasing a lot of satisfaction? Like that's the reason you push yourself?
Well, that's part of it, but that satisfaction comes from career success. So for example, if I tried really hard and achieved something, but my stream didn't do well, then I wouldn't be as satisfied and happy. But if I did really well, my stream as I planned, then I would feel good and
Okay.
more satisfied.
Yeah, of course. So if your stream does better, right? So if you work really hard and you
Mhm,
do a good job and your stream numbers are
mhm,
good or whatever, like then you feel more
mhm,
satisfied.
mhm. Yeah.
And how do you feel about the way you're living your life right now?
Um, it's great. I think it's complicated. Okay, so it's great, but also at the same time it's tiring, but also at the same time it's very satisfying. But I am very thankful. I'm trying to be like more appreciative about everything. And like for example, traveling, even though it is exhausting sometimes, like traveling around all the time. But I got to see and experience so many cool stuff and share that experience with audience. And then I am trying to be very thankful for, you know, thankful for that because not everyone can do that, like traveling around and earn money. And then, so I'm trying to be like, even though sometimes it is difficult, I'm trying to think like, oh yeah, like what I have is like such great things. I should be always thankful for it, kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot to be grateful for, and in some ways you're like
Mm,
incredibly lucky and your life sounds pretty
mm.
awesome in some ways.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
other ways it sounds rough.
It is tough, yes, because it's like for example, you traveling is something that people like take a vacation and then they go for a few days or a few weeks and come back, and then traveling itself is some like it's not like vacation. Sometimes some people come to my chat and say like you're always on vacation, but it's not vacation. Every time I hear that, I'm like I get so triggered because they have no idea how like exhausting it is. It's not like I just go travel somewhere and sit down and eat food and then stay at a beach or something like that. It's not like that. I have to plan everything, check the internet like with my mods, and then traveling back and forth all the time. And then when I go outside, I always try to like move around and then take chat as much as take chat to different places as much as possible, always walking, always on the move. And after that, it's super exhausting, and then doing that every single day is definitely not a vacation. Of course, I'm very grateful and all the time. And then I try to, even though sometimes my body feels tired, I try to like be more thankful for it and then have more positive energy and then keep doing it and pushing myself to do it. But it's definitely not like easy. So I wouldn't say it's super easy way, but of course very fulfilling, and I love uh traveling and streaming. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean it sounds like what is really what people don't understand is like you said that it's not easy. So I'm hearing that there's a lot to be grateful for, but you actually like
Mhm.
pay a pretty high price. You know,
Yeah. Because I cannot spend any time with my family and my friends because a lot of my family is in Korea, so it's I see them barely one like few weeks a year. That's very little.
Sounds like you
my
make a
friends
lot of
as well.
sacrifices.
Yeah, I guess like when it comes to that kind of like stuff, meeting family and friends in Korea, or it's because I'm always moving, so it's difficult to spend time with the people that I care about because that's the reason why like I flew my mom and grandma recently for a little bit to travel in Europe, and then I had like so much fun with them, and then they had so much fun because we barely get to do stuff together every year, like, so that is definitely a sacrifice that I have to make, being a travel streamer.
Yeah, I think Jinny, out of basically all the streamers I've talked to, I think you kind of take the cake for. It sounds like you don't actually get to have a life outside of your job.
Mm, not so much, no. But I think streaming, I consider streaming as part of like a huge part of my life, and something that I have to mainly focus on at this moment. When I have it, I wanna do it, at, like do my best, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think you. It sounds like you made a lot of very intentional decisions about. Because I'm like, here's what I'm hearing, and I'm not trying. Please let me know if I'm being judgmental or making things out
Mm-hmm.
to be worse. I'm not trying to. I'm just going to repeat back what I hear. Like, so when I
Mm-hmm.
think about like normal people, they have a job, and then
Mm-hmm.
outside of their job, they have their life. And for a lot of people, the
Yes.
the challenge is like, okay, how do I do less of my job so I can live my life more?
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, they don't like their job. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you sound like someone who, for the large part, like enjoys what you do. You're
Mm-hmm.
grateful for what you do, but I'm also hearing that you actually don't get to have a life outside of your job. Like it sounds like your job consumes, you know, basically 24 hours of your day, like most days,
A lot of
most
times,
weeks.
yes. But it's yeah. uh, I was pretty. How do I say? It is true, but for now, I think that I feel like I have to do it like that because, well, in the future when I get old, and then because things always change, and I don't know how long I will be, doing what I'm doing right now. So as long as possible, I'm gonna try my best to, you know, do what I'm doing. Try,
Yeah,
like, yeah,
I
yeah.
think I
So
mean,
even though I have to make sacrifices, I'm just thinking like, okay, so if I really work really hard at young age, and later on, when I can spend more time with my family and my friends, um, in the future. So I'm more like, mm, working really hard right now, and then I can spend more time with my friends and family in the future kind of person.
yeah,
I guess I don't know.
and I almost feel like
Mm.
can I think for a second?
Sorry.
Can I think for a second?
Uh huh.
Yeah. Just thinking, I'm not lagged.
Hmm.
So it sounds to me like you're afraid to change the way that you live your life.
um, Afraid. Yeah, I think I am definitely afraid of changes, but also I think change is inevitable. So while it lasts, let's try the best. That's kind of like mindset that I have.
And how are you? How's your stream going?
great. Of course, like all streams, as all streamers have, there's ups and downs. But I've had a pretty good year so far. Had massive achievement in Waddlethon, walked across the country, like that kind of stuff. And then right now, I am having a great time in traveling around Europe. Sometimes, like number wise, sometimes it's like not as good, of course. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied. I think. Pretty
And
tiring though because I've been moving around like every 2 or 3 days in Europe. So
yeah. And what does next year hold for you?
next hole.
Next year? What's going to happen next year?
I want to try one more season of Waddlethon. Like I want to walk across another country that is a little bit bigger than Taiwan, maybe, and probably go around explore some other more new countries. But also at the same time, I think I want to try some bigger projects as well. Not just traveling. Like past few years, I just like did IRL and traveling, but next year I want to focus on more like projects that involves something more than traveling. For example, I don't know. I want to create my own music songs and world do the street concert with my own music as I travel around, like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're going to do more next year.
I mean, every year I'm always like, oh yeah, okay, next year I'm gonna become like, I'm gonna do more, I'm gonna do more. I think I've been like that, yes.
Yeah. And so I'm noticing like an internal desire
Mm-hmm.
to try to change your mind. But I don't think that's my place to try to change your mind. So it's like I'm kind of feeling internally conflicted. Like, so you sound like you've
Internally
thought this through.
conflicted.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
You sound like you've thought this through. And it sounds like you're super smart. It sounds like you've collected a lot of data. It sounds like you've figured out something that's working for you. It sounds like you push yourself pretty hard. It sounds like you have a lot to be grateful for. It sounds like you're super tired. And it sounds like you're
Yeah,
going to walkathon sounds tiring.
it
And,
is definitely tiring.
and next year you're going to walkathon more. And
One more,
you're
I guess,
and
yeah.
and if we're doing like street concerts, like that means you got to practice, that means you got to have another bag, that means maybe two
Uh,
bags. You know, and because that's what the job demands, right? Because if you don't do more and you don't do better and you don't do bigger, people start
mhm.
leaving.
I think part of it is kind of like me wanting to grow more and more and more. That's a desire because I have the desire and the ambition. I am even though I don't have to. I'm just trying to keep like pushing myself to do more. Definitely because I'm definitely ambitious person, like very competitive and something like that. But also at the same time, at some point, I do have to accept like, yeah, you gotta stop doing so like crazy stuff because like I gotta start spending my time with with family and friends, and then I should start to have more personal life. And the reason why, even though I know I have to like rest more and then spend more time on something else, I feel like I get like super anxious about like not doing it because it's like I've worked so hard to build what I have, but it's so difficult to build, but it's so easy to lose. Even though I'm always trying, I still lose, you know? So I gotta, in order to be more successful, then I gotta do more stuff. And because of that, I am just like constantly trying to think of new stuff, trying to do more stuff. Something like, I guess, kind of like that.
Yeah, what's it like to work? I mean, because it does demand a lot, right? So consistency,
Mm.
creativity, high energy. You can't be tired on stream, right? And
Yeah, I mean, I
and
do say I'm tired on stream whenever I'm tired, but yeah, it's still even though I'm tired, I still gotta do what I plan to do. That is true, yeah.
and it's so easy for things to fall apart, right? Like if you take a break, like what happens? Have you taken a break?
Mm, I mean, I do take like a few days off when I'm tired. Like, oh yeah, I'm tired. I'm gonna sleep more. Yeah, I'm taking a day off today. Like today was my day off too, but it's just like one day is not enough, because but also at the same time, I don't want to take more days off because if I take more days off, I feel like I'm like um losing behind. Like, no, what is that word?
Falling
Like,
behind.
falling behind, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have to run as fast as you can just to keep pace. Like,
Mm.
even if you're running as fast as you can, you're not really getting ahead. You're just
Yeah, very competitive um field and people, especially with the trend of a lot of like I don't know trends. Everything is changing so fast, and people move on from this streamer A to streamer B to streamer C. They always move on depending on what other streamers are doing. And yeah, so because it's so competitive, I gotta keep doing it and then try to survive in this competitive field.
how confident are you in some of your conclusions?
How confident? As in,
Like, so you have these ideas, right? That like if you take an extended
mm-hmm,
break, things will get worse. That you have to do
mm-hmm.
walk. What Waddlethon next year is going to be bigger, longer.
I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be bigger because first Waddleton was like really good, and also it was in Taiwan, and Taiwan um viewers are whenever it tends to be like that whenever I'm in one country, that country viewers like come and watch all the time. But then whenever I leave the country, viewers and from that country tends to leave too, like the new viewers who came. So Taiwan, after Waddleton, I definitely have gotten more Taiwanese viewers that stayed, of course. But a lot of them definitely left as I left Taiwan too. But I think it's very difficult to be as big as Taiwan because Taiwanese viewers are very eager to they're very passionate people who love to watch what other streamers like foreigners are doing in their in
Hmm.
their country. And so it's not for me, just for me, but also tons of other streamers when they go to Taiwan, they get like pretty big boost because I think they love to watch like other people in their doing something in their countries. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But mhm,
I'm not quite sure. So first of all, it's like it's not my place to tell
mhm,
you what to do with your life, obviously. But I'm
uh-huh,
just I have some concerns about what I'm hearing, which is like, so you're kind of saying at some point you got to slow down, right? But
probably.
like how do you know when you're gonna slow down?
So I have this vague idea what I want to do in the
Okay.
future. So when I hit 35, I think I'm gonna stop traveling. And then because I love animals and then I love basically I want to have a little bit of like small farm where uh I help animals and rescue animals and live with them, taking care of them. And then I want to do that. And then I can stream that too. So I want to
So it
do it
sounds
like
like you've
that.
got kind of like an end date in mind. So you're gonna give it 4 more years. Oh, well, for
Uh,
the travel streaming.
I guess. But it could end early or it could last longer. Nobody knows. But that is probably the age that I feel like I kind of want to settle down in one place.
And when did you come up with that number?
35. I don't know why I just said 35, but I mean, what I don't know why I decided 35, but I,
When did you decide 35?
oh, I don't know, like last year.
Okay.
Yeah, last year. Because so I think after 1 or 2 years of always like moving around, I definitely got there were times I got burnt out, and then especially when, for example, transportation gets all messed up and then I have to like wait hours and hours for next transportation or get something that gets delayed. And then with tons of luggages, I'm super tired. When that kind of stuff happen, I'm like, okay, this is I can only do this until like 35. Let's just do it until 35. I think I had that kind of thinking starting from last year. And then I feel like 35 is great age to kind of like settle down as well.
Why is that?
Um, I'm not sure. Because I feel like 40 is too long. 31, 32, 33, 34 is kind of like in the middle. Like, why? So 35 is like that age. Like, okay, 35. So, not big reason. Just sounds right.
Yeah. So you know that's what it. What do you want to talk about, Ginny? Can
What do
I?
I want to talk about?
Yeah. Like
Mm-hmm.
what? Like I don't. Like I said, I feel sort of this impulse to contradict some of the things that you're saying. Like I see some potential problems with like some of the ways you're thinking about stuff, but it's like not my place, right? I mean,
I mean,
so
I definitely have a lot of problems in my what I'm thinking. What I'm doing, how I'm living my life is definitely not healthy, and I am aware of it. But also at the same time, I'm like, yeah, okay, but that's what I want to do, and then in order to be more successful, I gotta be work harder, kind of like that. But could be because I'm Asian, and then Asians, especially in Korea, like we tend to be like super competitive, grow up in very, very competitive background. I just cannot relax. I gotta keep doing it, or else I'm gonna be like very anxious. I'm very anxious about stuff. It's very problematic, very unhealthy, and I think I am aware of it. But also at the same time, I don't know like if I want to relax because I'm afraid I'll get more anxious if I relax. So I
yeah,
gotta figure out relaxing without being so anxious. But I don't know how to do that.
yeah. I mean, that sounds like some pretty bad. Like if relaxing makes you anxious,
Mm.
you know, it's kind of like if eating makes you hungry
Uh-huh.
or
Uh-huh.
like sleeping makes you tired. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know, that sounds not great.
Yeah, it's not that good. I think it's people, but it has gotten better though, because before it was a lot worse. Like if my life revolved around streaming like 90% before, now it's like 60, 70%. Like I try to have more balance between having my own life and streaming. I think at least that's what I'm trying to do.
How's that working?
I think it's working pretty. I think it's working better than before because the problem with that, my life being completely revolving around streaming, is when it was like that, viewers there were audience like viewers who were also very, very deeply involved in my life as well because I basically share everything what's going on in my life, and that's the reason why there were a lot of people who felt like who felt like they are entitled to know everything,
Mm.
and in the end when I didn't share, then there were a situation where they got mad or something, and then whenever that kind of boundaries between audience and me it became very blurry, I decided like, okay, I'm gonna start. like not sharing too much, and then I'm not gonna put my entire life like show entire I'm not gonna like revolve my life totally around streaming because I think that's unhealthy. So I try to like separate between streaming and uh not streaming. Like I try to separate because I feel like that's more healthy. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that boundary sounds very healthy. And then I think the other thing that's really kind of subtle there is that I think what you did there is carve out life outside of streaming too. That's what sounds really healthy to me.
Carve out life out of streaming.
Yeah, so it sounds like for a long, and even today to a certain extent, most of your life is streaming. But the
Mm-hmm,
moment that
mm-hmm.
you start blocking some stuff off, a part of your life becomes not streaming.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, when it was just about streaming, I didn't spend time with like my university friends basically because I was too busy with streaming, and then even off stream I was always online on like Discord of my community talking to them, and it was just like all the time like that. And now whenever I'm not streaming, I tend to talk to people who's not related to stream so that I don't have to talk about streaming anymore. I talk about other stuff like life or what they do, so something like that. And then I think I started doing this since last year. I hung out with my university friends more and basically talk about life that is not streaming. And I felt great, like kind of like liberated feeling because my life was just like for years and years it was just about streaming, how to grow, how to get more viewers. Even like my friends were streamers, so whenever we talk we're like, okay, like how to grow more, like, oh yeah, streaming live, blah blah blah. And whenever I was hanging out with my university friends, I was like, yeah, like, oh yeah, what do you do these days? Oh, I'm making this games for this company. Oh yeah, I'm playing golf as hobby. Oh yeah, I'm dating this girl these days. Like kind of conversation that is not about streaming. I was like, wow, this feels pretty good. You know? Kind of like feeling like having my life back a little bit from streaming. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love streaming and then I love spending time with my audience, but also at the same time, I was too like too deep inside.
Yeah.
Almost to the point if I don't stream, I feel like depressed. And that is not healthy, obviously. So
How do you
I think,
understand that?
mm, because I had some times where when I was not streaming or whatever, it's just like I felt very, how do I say, unsettled. Like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do without streaming? Like, oh, I'm not streaming. What am I gonna do? Or whenever, even when I'm taking a day off and relaxing, I'm always on like Discord or whatever, trying to like communicate. And then it got very unhealthy at some point because there were definitely a lot of people who were trying to say, I'm not sure, like, I don't know. I just figured like it's not too healthy, like how I was leaving. So, and then I felt pretty stressed and unhappy and depressed at certain point, like a few years ago, a year or 2 years ago. And I was like, okay, I should stop uh living like this. I should try to have more life that is not about streaming. It should be healthier, I think.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and when you made more life outside of streaming, how did that affect your streaming?
I think it became a lot better because uh viewers tend to be less, how do I say? Uh I think there used to be a lot of people who would want to probe my personal life, but I don't have that anymore because I feel like I am they understand that I'm trying to have like okay, streaming, and then non-streaming. Like you should have. And my viewers encourage me to take more days off, relax, have your own life. They do that, and because they know that that is healthy. So ever since I started doing that, I think it got a lot better. I am happier when I'm streaming, and yeah, I think it's been better.
Okay.
Hmm.
Can I think for a second?
Hmm.
How does this conversation feel to you so far? Like,
Mm, it's good. It's good. I like talking about uh this kind of stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, can I think for a second?
Hmm.
Okay. Can I just share what I'm sort of hearing and like a couple things I've learned?
Hmm.
Are you okay if I screen share with you and like draw some stuff out?
Sure.
Okay. So, first of all, Ginny, I think you're amazing. Like, this is super cool. It's like so cool
Thank
to
you.
hear what your life is like, what your journey is like. I, I really think it's great. I
Thank
think
you.
you clearly have thought a lot about what you want your life to be. I think it sounds like you've made a lot of positive changes. It sounds like you really succeeded as a streamer, which is a very hard thing to do, right? It's hyper competitive. It demands so much of you.
Hmm.
And I'm also hearing like a lot of stuff that I kind of hear from people a lot, which I don't think is ideal. So like this is
Hmm.
me placing a judgment, but it's not, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just going to share with you like a different perspective. And this is having, so it sounds like you're Korean.
Hmm. I am.
So, having worked with a fair number of Korean people, and it's not just Koreans that are like this, there are all kinds of people all over the world who are like this.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes to kind of like map out what I see is sort of like, this is true of you, but I mean, I think it's true of a lot of people of like, okay, like I got to work really hard. If I relax, I fall behind. I have to run at top speed just to like not fall behind. Like you're not gaining any ground. So you can't take breaks. You can't relax. And you can't even do the same amount of work like next year. You have to do more, right? You have to like waddle-thon again, and now you need to add this, and now you need to add this. So there's like this constant tension between, okay, I gotta slow down, I gotta cut back, I gotta move from 6 bags to 3, and then like next year we're gonna add a bag of music stuff. So there's like this constant tension of like I gotta cut back on stuff, and I gotta do more. And you're kind of like stuck in this way, right? Like, and you make progress, but I mean, and that's what's weird is, and then the other thing that tends to happen is a lot of times people will come up with some like arbitrary thing. They're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to slow down when I'm 35, right? I'm going to slow down at this like arbitrary time. And when you're 30, like 35, like makes sense, right? Because it's far enough away to where you can grind for like 5 years of your life. So it's not like you have to actually like slow down anytime soon, because slowing down anytime soon is like scary, right? So we want to like push it far away, but you also pick a number that doesn't like screw you, Like if you slow down at 35, you're like, there's enough of life left to live that you can enjoy. Whereas if you like slow down when you're 40, then it's like hard to have kids, and then you're like kind of getting older and like, all this kind of stuff. So there's this kind of number, and it sounds like a really good number. But sometimes what I see is that when people come up with this kind of arbitrary number, the forces that keep them going today will still be present when you're 34. right? So like what drives you on a day-to-day basis, I don't know is going to change over like 32 or 33 or 34. Like if you do Waddle-thon next year and it does better, then it's good, but you're also like kind of screwed, because the lesson that you learn is like, okay, if I like Waddle-thon longer, I will do better and I will grow. And if I grow before like the internet gets bored of me and find someone else, so like next year, like if I Waddle-thon more, then like it'll grow even bigger, right? So like doing more leads to better results, which is a fundamental assumption I want to challenge, by the way. But like, does that make sense? Like, how am I doing so far? Does this feel like we're on the right track or off, or does it feel judgmental? Am I like overstepping?
No. I'm listening. And it sounds about right. Yes.
Okay. So let's like take a look at this, and I'm going to kind of try to map a couple things out. And then all I'd really like to do is just encourage you to like think about a couple of things. And really think about some of the assumptions and some of the ways that you kind of make decisions. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. I'm not saying that you can even do anything better. It sounds like you're doing a fantastic job. It sounds like you're practicing gratitude. It sounds like you're taking more time off. It sounds like you've started to set more boundaries. It sounds like your content is actually doing better, that people like the stuff that you're doing more, that you're cultivating a healthy community. I'm hearing win after win after win after win after win after win after win. Is that fair?
Hopefully, yeah.
I mean, would you agree with everything that I just said, or was I like wrong with that?
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, of course, it's not always win. There's definitely lose sometimes. I cannot win all the time. And
how does it feel to not be able to win all the time?
I mean, I'm fine with it, I think. Like, because that's life. Like, you cannot win all the time. I mean, before I struggle with it, I'm like, why am I not, get doing better when I'm trying so hard? Like, why it's so unfair. I used to be like that, but I'm like, it's it happens, and you just gotta accept and then move on, try to do better next time.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So let me so I'm glad that let me try to see if this, how do I, no, hold on. Give me a second. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Can you see this?
I just see black screen at this moment.
Yep. Oh. Okay. Black screen is what you're supposed to see.
Okay.
Oh, no. There we go. Okay. So, there we go. Okay, so black screen, right? So, okay, here is Jinny. And Jinny is a good Korean girl, right?
Yeah.
Which means that Jinny wants to be successful.
Yep.
And being successful involves working hard, right? Sacrificing. Jinny is also well aware that hard work is not enough to be successful in your field. That the internet gets bored.
Yeah, very easily.
Very easily. Which means that if Jinny wants to be successful, she doesn't know like when the internet is going to get bored and move on to someone else. Which means that like if you want like the window for success that you have is limited. Right? And then what that means is that you won't be able to grind later, so you got to grind now. Right?
Right now.
Because who knows? And there's all kinds of other resilient coping stuff that Jinny does. So she learns to practice gratitude, right? You're being grateful. You're setting boundaries. So it sounds like you're making actually like a lot of progress, and in a lot of ways you were even more exhausted. I mean, you were carrying around 6 suitcases or 7 suitcases, and now it's only 3.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of basic problems. Okay, so this is the first one. The internet gets bored, right? So your window is limited. The second is that you got to grow in order to not die. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to run whatever you do this year, you got to do more next year. Right?
Yeah.
So like you're going to need to like and how out of 0 to 100%, how much are you giving right now?
I give pretty like 90%, I guess, this year so far. Been going around so many different places, not just the Waddle-thon, but also like chasing tons of events that I find it fun. Even after Waddle-thon, people thought I would like take quite a long times off, but I didn't. I was always moving every 2 days, 3 days. Blah,
It
blah, blah.
sounds to me like you're giving 100%.
100%, 90%, 90%. I would say 90%.
Could you ever
100
give 100%? Have you ever given 100%, Ginny? Or is 100% theoretical?
100% theoretical. I'm not really sure what exactly is 100%.
Right. Okay. So which means that like you could be giving 100% and you wouldn't even realize it.
100% would be kind of like this. So I am not just trying to grow Twitch. I'm also trying to grow like YouTube and TikTok and other stuff. And then I've always thinking like, okay, I gotta make more content for YouTube and TikTok as well. But I'm like spending so much time on Twitch, so I don't really have time. And then 100% would be, okay, after streaming, I'm making more content for YouTube and TikTok and posting there too.
So, but that's not like physically possible or mentally possible, right? So this is my point. Is
is possible. So for example, there are a few things I do off stream to relax. Like I play some games, I watch Netflix, just laying down, watch some shorts, like, and if I instead of watching other people's shorts, if I make my own shorts, instead of playing games, if I put more time in creating videos for YouTube and TikTok, then I could do that. But that's like 100%. But it's not having my own time. So I'm like, you know what? I stream hard. I deserve some like free time. So I like.
So 100% is perfect, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is being perfect.
Perfect in work, sure, but not.
Yeah.
Very healthy.
Yeah. So, but I mean, and that's what I'm saying is like practically having worked with human beings. You're a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I'd guess, I know it's going to sound kind of weird, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. I think you're basically given 100%. I don't think you've got a whole lot left to give. Like, sure,
maybe.
in theory, like if you were a perfect human being with infinite amounts of energy, you could be growing other platforms simultaneously. But like, you're a human, right? And the human body gets tired. And
unfortunately.
Like the human body sometimes like needs to talk to friends and sometimes like needs to see family and sometimes needs to not take off their makeup before the human body passes out.
Yeah.
Like, so if we consider that the human body is a imperfect instrument, and we don't have to go like too much back and forth on this, but like, I think you're given way closer to 100% than you are to 90%.
Yeah, maybe. That's always that's why I'm always thinking, oh, it would be so good if I had like two bodies, you know?
Right. So okay, so let's just think about that for a second, right? So if you're at the point where improving substantially involves adding a second body, maybe we're close to maxing out our first body.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, like if we have to like duplicate yourself in order to be more efficient, maybe we're like topping out on what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Right? So like
sounds about right.
So if you duplicate yourself, then you could go to 200%. But if you're like moving to 200, that means we're pretty close. Like we're at 99. You know, I think practically, like I think if you worked 10 hours more a week, like I don't think you could take it. What do you think about that?
If I work 10 hours more, I mean, yeah, that would be pretty difficult.
Right? So,
and yeah.
Anyway, I mean, like we can go back and forth. I'm just going to kind of point this out and encourage you to sort of think about how much you're really giving. And that, like, I know that from a theoretical perspective and as a good Korean girl, unless you're perfect, you can do better. Right? Because that's what, I mean, being Indian in some ways is very similar, where unless you're perfect, you can do better. And okay, so this is kind of like your situation, right? So then I think another thing to really consider is emotions. So there are a couple of other things that I've heard. One is that satisfaction is really important to you. But what makes you feel satisfied?
It's very difficult because I don't really get satisfied enough. Like, for example, like even when I feel like, even when a lot of people say, yeah, Jenny, you have a pretty good stream, but I feel like I have very high standard or something. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't like as good. I'm always not happy about something about my stream, even though I tried hard. Like something could have been better or something. I think I tend to focus on what could have been better than what was good. So that's the
Okay.
reason why I don't feel that satisfied with my streams pretty often.
Okay,
Even though
so
I'm
where
trying.
does satisfaction come from?
Satisfaction come from? I don't know.
Okay, very good. So now we're getting to like the stuff that I want you to think about, right? So you said that satisfaction is very important to you. It sounds like good outcomes plus
Good
effort sometimes leads to satisfaction. But now we're running into kind of like a tricky thing, which is that we don't really know where satisfaction comes from. And it seems like sometimes even doing a good job doesn't make you feel satisfied. But feeling satisfied is very important to you.
It is. So I think it's just outcome and result. So if the result is good, then I am satisfied. If the result is bad, then even though I tried really hard, I wouldn't be as satisfied. So there are a lot. So it's very unpredictable. Because, for example, I'm not putting as much effort on stream on that day, but then result is so much better than the other day that I tried harder.
Okay,
And then I'll be like,
we're going to get to effort and reward in stream in a few minutes, okay? But and so here's my question to you. So you don't know what satisfies you, right?
like,
Oh, you said
probably
results.
good. Yeah, result. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you something. What kind of result satisfies you?
For now, because I am focusing on streaming and content creating, that kind of stuff. So if I have good numbers.
How do you define good numbers?
Like better than usual.
Okay, hold on a
Better than
second.
usual. Yeah. Number and
What do you think about that?
it's very unhealthy.
Why?
And because okay, so number is something that is totally not controllable. Like, so it relies on so many different stuff, and it's very difficult to predict if the number is gonna be good, number is gonna be bad, or something like that. So I don't think it completely relates to how hard I try, because there will be days
Jinny, better than usual, right?
better than usual.
So like this is a huge problem. What's the problem?
What's the problem?
The
Better than
problem is
usual?
that like no amount of satisfaction is going to be anything near permanent. It's always going to be temporary, and you got to do better. It's better than usual. So if you pull in, let's say 10K viewers a day, then your satisfaction requires 11K. And if it requires 11K, then when you're like 34 in 6 months and you're pulling in like 80,000 viewers a day, and then you're going to look at yourself and you're going to be like, oh no, I dropped down to 78, and you're going to be unsatisfied.
Okay, but then the thing is, okay, so I've talked to chat about this too, I think. So I want to have like 10K viewers stable 10. If I were to have 10K stable viewers, if I grow that much, then if I drop from, let's say someday I got 15K viewers and then I drop to 11K the other day, I wouldn't be like, I don't think.
How did you come up with the 10K number?
It's like very difficult number to reach, but also at the same time I've reached it few times. I mean, especially when I was doing Waddlethon, that Taiwan people boost was like keeping me at 10K like a lot of time for 2 months or something. So I'm like, okay, if I have reached few times, then I have potential to reach that part. I mean, that point. I just gotta try really hard and then grow, and then try to maintain that number. It's super difficult, but I've been trying to do that like since years. There's always up and down, of course, but
So this is what tends to
mhm,
happen. As human
mhm,
beings, we take our
mhm,
best performance
mhm.
and we shoot for a target for that is our baseline, right?
Um, so Tekke is like very high, and then I plan to like achieve it by doing harder, more work.
Right, you're going to clone
Uh,
yourself.
I'm gonna clone myself. And then if I reach that point, like if I reach that point, once I reach that point, like stable 10K is in like, for example, there is no such. I don't think there is a such thing as stable 10K, but at least like going around like up and down around that area, I would still be satisfied. Um, like
But
not
but
too
then what
much
if
of a
that
drop.
becomes usual?
If that becomes usual, then I would be like, you mean stable 10K
Mhm.
is the usual? Then I'll be happy. Yay.
So that's what I'm concerned about is I'm
Mhm.
concerned that generally speaking what leads you to satisfaction is doing better than
Mhm.
usual. Right? So
Mm.
if 10K becomes usual, you may move the target.
Um, I think so. I felt that when I was doing Waddlethon in Taiwan, I think I've even reached like 20K or something. But then that was like starting boost, and then it stabilized, and it stayed around like 10K to like 13K later on, like something like that for like
Ginny,
quite a
was
long
there a
time.
time that you would have been happy with stable 5K?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I was happy. So okay, this is kind of, I don't think I've ever shared this. Um, so I am always have goals, and I whenever I start to decide to do something, I always write down in my note. I've been doing that ever since I was a kid. I always write down on my note what's my goal for doing this, what's my goal for doing that. And then even when I first started streaming, I had this note of writing down the number like goal. Okay, so after starting 1 year of streaming, I want to reach at least 1,000 viewers. After like 2 years, I want to reach at least like this much of it. I had like this goal writing down like, okay, and in order to achieve it I have to do this, maybe I could try this, like, I had this note that I write down about what I want to do, and then my plans and my goals and everything. And my goal definitely happened uh way faster than I planned, and then I was very happy. And what happened afterwards was, okay, so I achieved, now I gotta maintain. And then I was maintaining, I was doing good, and I got more viewers at some point and reached sometimes like 10K even. And then I think few years I was going up and down like from 4 to 5 to 7 to 10K to like 4 to 5K again. Like it has been like that all the time. And then I decided to have like, oh yeah, I want to have stable 10K viewers after, I mean, since like 2021, I think. Because before then, I was just maintaining the current number that I was having. But then after reaching 10K a few times, I'm like, okay, you know what? I want to have like stable 10K viewers. That's my goal. So I made that as my goal now. So I'm like trying to achieve that goal, and I'm the type of person who's like, okay, I made this goal, so I'm just gonna try my
Right.
best and then push myself hard until I reach that goal. It was just like super difficult.
Yeah. So what happens when you reach your first goal? Are you
um,
satisfied?
yeah, when I first reached my goal, I was like, oh,
Not when you
very
first
satisfied.
reach your goal. Okay, sure. But
Mm-hmm.
then what happens a month later?
Months later, I was more like focusing on maintaining and then trying to grow more, but that wasn't the end goal. So for example, I wanted to grow like, okay, 1K to 2K to 3K, blah blah blah. But 10K was after like 4 years, 5 years streaming, I realized, okay, having stable number of viewership is very difficult, and I would not be more greedy, and then I would not be like doing crazy stuff as I am doing right now once I reach that goal. I've kind of like made a promise with myself, like, okay, I'm not gonna be super, uh, I'm not gonna try to bigger goals than that. Like, for example,
Okay, so
after
10,
reaching
10K
10K,
is different from the other goals.
kind of,
You're
kind of,
promising yourself that you're not going to ask more of yourself.
kind of, yes, because I know I'm
And
asking
and
a lot.
how good are you at keeping promises to yourself?
Uh, I think pretty good. Maybe I'm not really sure.
Okay. Is this something that you've done often? Or do you
I
rarely
mean,
make promises to yourself like this?
I make promises to myself all the time though, but it is difficult to keep it all the time as well. For example, when I have bad habit, and then I'm like, okay, after this I'm not gonna do it, but then another day I'm doing it, kind of. But
Okay.
yeah. So this time was also kind of but I think whenever I was doing Taiwan Waddlethon and then getting that high viewership, I was not super like stressed or not set unsatisfied from number being dropped from, let's say, 15 to 10K. I don't think I was like unsatisfied with it. So I feel like I can keep that promise. Like once I reach that 10K stable, I'll be like satisfied more. But even right now, I am satisfied with what I have. I mean, having like 4 to 5K viewers when I'm like, just traveling around and chilling, not really doing something super crazy or super special, I still have like that many viewers. And that's a lot already. So I am happy streaming, and then I don't get stressed because I didn't hit 6K today or 7K today. I
Okay,
don't
hold
think
on,
I'm
hold
like
on,
that.
hold on, hold on. So this is
Mm-hmm,
like this is really interesting, right? Because you said
mm-hmm,
earlier that better
mm-hmm,
than usual is what
mm-hmm,
leads to satisfaction. But now
mm-hmm.
you're telling me that you're not unsatisfied with a drop from 15K to 10K and that you're actually satisfied with 4 to 5K and you're kind of chilling.
So it's kind of like this. Of course, I am not satisfied with the number itself, sure. But before, I was more like, oh my God, I'm sad because of like this. If I was like that before, now I am like, okay, even though it wasn't as good as I thought it would be, you still had this many people watching you. That is already like pretty good job, and I should be more thankful. So I have changed my mindset. Before I was more negative about like numbers and I was more stressed about it. Now I'm like, okay, you could have done better, sure.
Yeah, right. So I think
Mhm.
that's really important because
Mhm.
understanding that so what I'm hearing is that your satisfaction comes from your mindset, not your numbers.
Mm, it's how do I say? Okay, so let's say the number was not to my satisfaction. Like, okay, so
Ginny,
Mhm.
So I understand that when I say something like that,
Uh-huh.
your answer is like, yes, but the numbers
Uh-huh.
are still important. It really depends on the numbers,
Uh-huh.
right?
No, I don't. It's like it's complicated. It's different feelings from satisfaction.
Yeah, yeah, right. So that's what we're going to get into, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that like if we look at satisfaction, it's like actually kind of weird and complicated. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes it kind of depends on the numbers and you have a lot of like really good rational reasons for the goals that you want. But if we
Mm-hmm.
look at the emotion of satisfaction, we've got to be
Mm-hmm.
kind of careful because sometimes that satisfaction does come from the numbers. Like when your
Mm-hmm.
numbers are better than usual, you're going to feel
Mm-hmm.
great no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there are other times where you've discovered that your satisfaction, if we were to say this is the satisfaction bucket, maybe somewhere over here, this is numbers
Mm-hmm.
and this is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And your satisfaction used to be like this, where it's mostly numbers. And recently, like you moved the mindset thing over here so that now it's like more mindset and less numbers, right? Like you can be satisfied with 4 to 5K concurrence if you're kind of chilling, you're kind of vibing, you're having a good time.
Mm-hmm. But that's it's kind of like this. If I start to be more satisfied with, okay, I'm saying this
Yeah.
is like kind of unhealthy, but also at the same time, I the
Can
reason
I can I
why.
can I give it a
Mhm.
shot before you?
Yes.
So if you
Uh-huh.
start getting satisfied with 4 to 5K and you stop
Uh-huh.
striving, then you're like you're doomed. You don't want to be satisfied with 4 to 5K. That sounds like a terrible strategy,
Uh-huh.
right?
It's like so it's like this. I am not I mean, I am going to keep trying hard to provide with good content and then try to grow. And then I'm gonna keep pushing myself hard. But whenever I didn't get the result that I wanted, instead of feeling sad or upset, I should be thankful. So that is the so it's not really I'm satisfied with 4 to 5K number. It's not like that, but it's like okay, I still have a lot of people watching me and enjoyed my stream, so I should be thankful about that.
Yeah, so you're doing something weird. So
Am
let's
I?
oh yeah. Right? So what you do is you feel unsatisfied. And then you gratitude your way out of it. Right? You say I shouldn't feel this way. Instead I'm going to choose to be grateful, which is healthy.
Mhm,
But do you
mhm.
see that that's what you're doing?
Um, I think so. I think it's better than feeling upset and then, oh man, why didn't I do better? I think
Right,
it's better
right,
than
right.
that. Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
better than, but let's acknowledge that you feel upset and unsatisfied, and then you manage those emotions through developing gratitude.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, I guess. But I wouldn't be. I don't feel upset because I didn't do better than usual. I just feel like, oh well, today was a little worse than I thought. Well, I guess I'll try harder next time.
But
Kind
why
of
why
feeling.
do you feel upset?
I mean, I don't think I feel upset because I didn't do better. But I just feel like, oh yeah, well, I guess I'll do better next time or something like that.
Right. So if you say I'll do better next time,
Mm-hmm.
who are you talking to? Like, does that make sense?
Who am I
Like
talking to?
you're like talking to yourself, right? You're consoling yourself,
Uh, I guess yes.
right? So you don't need to console yourself. Like you console people who are feeling hurt or disappointed in some way, right?
Mm.
So yeah, let me just finish a couple things, and then maybe
Mm-hmm.
we'll be able to piece it together. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it'll. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right here. It's just something for you
Mm-hmm.
to think about. So there are a couple
Mm-hmm.
of other things. So sometimes I think you experience fear, right?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes you get anxious when you relax, and it sounds like you're doing a lot better with this.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, and that's tricky, right? So if you start to like relax a little bit, you start to worry about, am I going to hit my targets? How much time do I have left? You know, I need to be growing. Otherwise, I'm like, things are going to be shrinking and someone else will show up. Right. And so then like this
Mm-hmm.
pushes you. And the other interesting thing is that if you're growing, right, and you hit 10K stable,
Mm-hmm.
then you have ammo to fight the fear and anxiety. Because if you've got 10K stable, you don't need to be afraid.
Mm.
Right? So 10K stable also gives you security.
Mm. Yes.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong.
Security. Security. I mean, but to be honest, I know, like, even after I reach 10K, there's no such thing as stable 10K. Like, it will, because even that
So so
maintaining is big,
so
super difficult.
so you're telling me that even with stable 10K, there's still fear.
Yeah, of course. Like, I think everybody will have such fear. Like for example, unless you're like really top of the top, and then no matter what you do, you'll always get like high numbers. Unless you're kind of like that point, I think every streamer always will have a little bit of this insecurity with the number, and then even when you reach the point where you're always getting 10K, I mean, you cannot maintain that forever. Like
Well,
you
no, no. So,
can.
so Jinny, this is the thing. Okay, I'm going to stop screen sharing with you. Okay.
Mhm,
Okay. So this is the thing. It it's not the So here's the crazy thing. So this is like what I'm trying to work my way to. So you're right, right? So even the biggest streamers don't feel secure at big numbers. So my whole point to you is that the way you feel and your performance are completely independent.
Yeah.
So this is what we've done. So like now I've got data to back this up. At this point, we've worked with 400 content creators. And what we tend to see in 12 weeks is an increase of viewership or sub count by 171% at 12 weeks without increasing the amount of work they do by a single hour. Right? So people will like see huge improvements in numbers. And this is like big streamers. We're talking like even people who pull in 30K plus concurrents or people who pull in like 30K. I mean, 30 and 30K across the spectrum, but more people on the smaller end. And so like, here's the wild thing, right? So like what I'm hearing from you is that a lot, like, so I think goals is good. Moving towards things is good. But what I'm noticing is that your emotional state gets tangled up with your goals. So the way that you manage your fear is to do better. Right? So it's like, if I can do better, then my fear will improve. But now so then it's like, okay, if you get 10K stable, like you get some security, right? So, okay, like now I've made it. And you're telling me that that's your special number. That's not like any of the other goals. But then if I ask you, will that like satisfy you? You're kind of like, well, maybe. And the answer to everything is like, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's like, yeah.
And that's not, you're not wrong. You're actually very right. This is the point. Anytime your mind says, well, maybe, that means that there's something there to be understood. We need to tease it apart and understand what are the variables in the equation. Because what I'm actually hearing from you is that setting more boundaries, carving out more of a life is increasing your satisfaction and improving your numbers. That sacrificing less and spending some time with your family doesn't seem to be overall negatively hurting your trajectory.
Yes, but it's probably because even though I am trying to have more of my life, I am definitely not doing that much. Like, for example, after 2 months of Battle Fun, I stayed in Korea for 2 days, spent time with my friends one day, immediately left for Europe with my mom and grandma. So that's actually still like that is more spending time with friends and family than before, sure, but still definitely not enough to hurt my numbers or.
So how much time
Mhm.
hurts your numbers?
Well, can't really tell though, because there are those situations where
Hold on, hold on,
people take a
hold on,
break.
hold on, hold on, hold
Mhm.
on, hold on a
Mhm.
second. Just
Uh-huh.
listen to yourself. Because you're
Uh-huh.
saying, okay, like the reason it didn't hurt my numbers is because
Mhm.
I only spent 2 days.
Mhm.
Right?
It's very vague fear. So I don't know. So I could take a month off and come back. I could
So
still have the
what
same amount
determines
of
how
number.
much time? So you don't know what amount of time is going to hurt your numbers, right? Objectively, you don't know that. What
Yeah, no
determines
idea.
how much time you spend with your family?
Hmm?
What determines, how do you decide to spend 2 days?
I mean, it was just like according to the plan and schedule, and then some of the stuff that I had to do. So I barely, I mean, I only had 2 days because I had like other upcoming schedule that I made. So that's the reason
What
why.
drove that schedule? How did that schedule get made that way?
I mean, Waddleton got delayed a lot. So
Okay.
it was supposed to be only like a month, but it became like 2 months, and because it was harder than I thought. So I already had like some sponsorship on that week that I had to do in Europe. So I had to be in Europe in order to keep that,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that. So,
Okay. So what, this is going to be a silly question. So there's like no way that you could have adjusted that schedule, right?
uh, I mean, my schedule always changes, so it's really hard to predict.
So what
Um,
determines whether how your what's the driving force behind your schedule? Like what's the anchor?
Driving force.
How would it feel to if things got delayed, right?
Hmm.
And let's say like how would it feel to have not kept the next thing or
How?
cut
What
back
if?
on Waddlethon?
Oh, you mean what do you mean by cut back on Waddleton?
I don't know. So you said like it got delayed, right? So like anytime there's a cut, because that's the thing, you don't make cuts, right? Stuff gets added to your schedule, but nothing gets taken off.
Um, I mean,
So things take
no. Oh yeah.
longer, things get
Yeah,
added.
yeah, I keep adding stuff.
Does
There
anything
are
ever get cut?
uh, I feel like I feel like I like maybe some stuff, like some stuff that I promised to do with chat that I've not been doing. So some stuff that
Some
I
stuff.
feel like mhm.
How does it feel to cut things from your schedule?
uh, I mean, if it's like major stuff, I would not cut it. Like for example, I would like I'm doing this challenge, walking across the country. Let's do it. Oh, I'm so tired. You know what? I'm gonna stop here. I would never do that.
Right.
Yeah. But if it's just like, okay, guys, I'm gonna finish this game, but
So what I'm saying is
I
like I think it's like
mm,
unthinkable to cut something like that,
unthinkable.
right? Like you could never like cut something big.
Oh yeah, never.
Like why not?
Cause it's just it's gonna be I will I will be disappointed in myself, and also my viewers will be like, wow, like my viewers will also be disappointed. I feel like for example, I made this like huge challenge. Okay, let's do this, and then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna do it. Then that make it creates this precedent. Like, oh, okay, Jinny will kind of give up if it finds like difficult or something. I don't wanna have that. I don't think I want to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So like what I'm hearing is that that would feel very. How is it okay that I'm asking you this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
You sure?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So like here's kind of what I'm noticing, and just something for you to think about. So a couple of things is that I don't think you're doing anything wrong, and I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Am I making sense? Is this okay? Are you feeling like we're disconnected?
No, no, no. I think you're interpreting what I'm saying really well, and then there are a lot of contradictions. Like, oh, I think that's life. Like, that's what I'm feeling. I'm very, very contradicted all the time. I'm like, I want to rest, but also at the same time, I gotta work. Sometimes I just want to relax, is fine, but also at the same time, no, I gotta keep doing it. I'm always contradicted. My feelings, my emotions, all the time. It's kind of
Yeah,
like
and I
that.
think we're
Yeah.
hearing that in this conversation.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Right? So like when you tell me something and I repeat it back to you, what do you say? Like
I'm like,
you'll like contradict it. So I'll say
Mhm.
like, okay, what leads to satisfaction? You're like results above the norm. And then I'll be like, okay, tell me when you've been satisfied. And you're like, well, I was a 4 to 5K concurrence and I was satisfied. And I dropped that and I was satisfied. And then I was like, oh, okay, so it's not this thing, right? And you're like, no, but it is that thing because this. So this is I think what is so fucking confusing about your life and why I think it's hard in a lot of ways. This is why you do things that you regret and then you don't learn your lesson. Right? Because when you're really, really exhausted, you'll say to yourself, you'll promise yourself, right? Like, no, I need to take more breaks. And then you wake up the next day, you're like, fuck the break.
Yeah.
Right? Waddlethon was delayed and it was exhausting. And should we do it again? Well, in a slightly larger country because it needs to be bigger and better. And how much do you have left to give? Are you at 100%? Well, you don't think it's 100% because no Korean in the history of humanity has ever done 100% effort, except for your neighbor's kid who's at the top of their class and you should be more like them.
Yeah.
Right? But I've never, it's everyone else thinks that other Korean kids are doing 100%. That's what 100% looks like, that kid down the street, but not you. So this conflict, I think the reason you're so conflicted is because I think there's a lot more emotion here than you realize. And the one thing I would encourage you to really think about is that your performance as a streamer is independent of your emotional state. And similarly, your emotional state or your satisfaction with your streaming career is independent of your performance, which is weird. It's very contradictory. I've tried to work with Korean esports teams who have never, like, I've just worked with them for weeks. And this is something that we've just agreed to disagree and they just never see it my way. I'm not saying my way is right. I never understand their way. That's an equally good way of putting it. At this point, I've got some data behind it. So and I think you're discovering this like through your raw need for surviving this fucking thing that you're doing, which is like really, really awesome and also takes so much out of you. Is that you've got to set boundaries. But if I had asked Jinny 2 years ago, can you set boundaries around your personal life and your professional life? You'd have said no. Right? The viewers come to see everything that I am. And if I try to if I close anything off, people will get upset and they will leave.
Maybe, yeah.
So I hear a lot of moving goalposts. I hear that fear is a big part, and that's normal. I'm not saying that this is like a problem. This is true of all streamers. And this is what I'm saying. Like, even working with people who are 30K, 40K, 50K, 60K concurrents or whatever, like a lot of them, well, some of them struggle with it and some of them don't. The difference is that the ones who don't struggle with that didn't struggle with it at 2K or 5K or 10K either. That you can plan to do better, right? Like you can plan good content. I don't know if this kind of makes sense, but you can work on a project and you can plan it really well and it can do really well, but you don't need to be afraid or satisfied to have that content do well. Like the planning of the content and figuring out how to increase your concurrence, how to like stream more effectively, how to give your audience, there's all that process is absolutely there, but that doesn't need to be tangled up with your internal emotional state or your satisfaction or your sense of self-worth. And I think the reason that you're conflicted is because those two things get tied together. And the whole point about conflict is that there's like two parts of you, because depending on what your internal emotional state is, that'll be which direction you move on a given day. What are you hearing?
Mm, so yeah. So you're saying streaming, number and career, that and then my emotional feeling, what I'm feeling should be it's like separated, like independent. It shouldn't be involved.
So I think right now,
Mm-hmm.
one is actually dictating quite a bit of the other. And I think that as you have started to set boundaries
Uh-huh.
between those two things, the better you've been doing. So I think it
Yeah.
sounds like you're doing better objectively. And you said you had a conversation with some school friends about things that are not like related to streaming, and it
Mm-hmm.
felt liberating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can get that liberation without hurting your numbers. And the biggest problem that most streamers make is they think that these two things are tied. Since you've had to sacrifice so much to get here, you assume that since sacrifice has caused you to grow, you assume that it is sacrifice that will continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas the big revelation that we've had, and I think this is what you would also agree with, because most streamers agree with this, is that when you're actually like not tired and exhausted and you feel pretty good about yourself, your streams are actually like higher energy, more enjoyable, and you actually do like better in the numbers. That
Mm-hmm.
sacrificing and being tired all the time, like there's that fear driver that if I stop doing this, then people will slip away. But that's the big paradox, is that actually being well rested will bring more people in. But the problem is that that fear that if I take a break, like everyone will disappear. I don't, and I'm not saying that, you know, if you take extended breaks and like consistency is important. So there's absolutely like a big part of like consistency is a huge part, and taking breaks, extended breaks, is very damaging for streaming. And even if some people are able to successfully do it, those people are outliers. The
Mm-hmm.
majority of streamers need to stream consistently in order to keep their numbers or grow.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
absolutely true.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what I'm encouraging you to do is, more than anything else, think a little bit about what satisfies you, what really satisfies you. That you can
Mm-hmm.
strive to grow, and you can strive to be better, and you can strive to do more ambitious things and grow your numbers. That's fantastic. Go for it, girl. But your happiness or value or sense of satisfaction does not have to be so tied up into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think I should find more satisfaction from like something that is not related to streaming. I think I should like find satisfaction in some other stuff in order to be more healthy. Because number is such a, I don't know, it's very, very difficult to get satisfied from.
Yeah, so I noticed that you're like very, very like, I mean, this is the other challenge, is that in order to become as successful a streamer as you are, you have to think this way. So this is the really weird thing about, like, if we look at success, grinding gets you to the top 10%. But then what happens is like 90% of people in the top 10% start to burn out. And the people who go to the top 1% are the ones that develop some degree of like work life balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's not true. I want it to be true, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's true enough. It can be true. Let me put it that way. But I know a lot of people who are at the top 1% who just never develop work life balance, and they just sacrifice more and more and more and more and really burn out.
Mm-hmm.
But I know plenty of people there, or I've worked with enough of those people to help them develop balance, and they don't lose anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're already like on this journey, right? It sounds like you've developed a lot of balance, and actually your like content is doing better as a result.
So, yeah. I think I mean I've definitely developed healthier lifestyle from separating streaming and then having more like personal life. I think I've definitely developed healthier style of streaming because before it was definitely not healthy and then there were a lot of viewers who were just like very very They just love to know everything. But I don't think it's a lot less, and then I think a lot of people in my community respect that now. So I feel more, comfortable.
That's a really good point. So I think one thing, Ginny, and this isn't true just of you, but so if you look at human relationships,
Hmm.
what you give people is what they're going to want. So we see this a lot with like streamers and parasocial relationships, but this is true of like everyday relationships too. That, you know, if you give people complete access to your life, that's what they're going to come to expect. And they'll start to get really, really upset if you ever try to take that away. But this is also true of like our everyday relationships, where I know so many people who will allow others to violate their boundaries, right? I'll let someone else, because I'm afraid that they'll leave, right? Because you don't want your viewers to leave. And in everyday life, we don't want our boyfriend to leave. We don't want our girlfriend to leave. We don't want our brothers or siblings or friends to leave. I will tolerate their bad behavior. And once I start tolerating their bad behavior, then they will expect me to tolerate it. And then I get stuck in this really, really interesting trap, which is if I ever tell them no, they start to leave. And this was the very thing that I was afraid of to begin with. And now all of my fears are coming true by setting boundaries. But the really tricky thing is that this is a problem of my own creation when I tolerated it in the first place. When I set a particular standard, then people become entitled to violating my boundaries. And the whole reason I let them do that in the first place is because I'm afraid of them leaving. And so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is why people get stuck. But what I'm seeing from you is that you started to set some boundaries. It sounds like maybe some people got upset. But then the cool thing is that there's like plenty of people out there who will respect them anyway and show up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I got so sick of those people who are just like, trying to be like gaslighting me into like saying my personal, like, tell everything about my personal life, or else I'm like a bad person. Like, there are definitely a lot of people
Oh
like
my
that. I'm
God.
like, okay, fuck that shit. I'm gonna ban all these people. I don't need these people. So I was like, yeah, I don't care if I lose these people. Like, in the long run, like, not having these people is so much healthier. So yeah, I've definitely like made boundaries like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, we've been at it for a couple of hours. So anything that you want to ask or anything that you want to talk about before we kind of wrap up? I hope I didn't push,
Um,
like, I hope I wasn't too preachy with what I was sharing with you.
no, I think it gave me more clear side of view of like why I'm so conflicted, and then like always like I was complicated, but it definitely cleared up my perspective for sure, because I was pretty confused, like uh but I should definitely try to find satisfaction in other stuff more, and then separate between like numbers and satisfaction, that kind of stuff, because I don't think I'll ever be able to get satisfaction from numbers itself. So yeah, it
Yeah, which is
definitely
crazy
cleared up.
because that's what you're
Hmm.
chasing, right? So like,
I
I mean,
know, I know.
and even your memory of like which numbers, what your numbers were at particular points is
Hmm.
like, is crazy. Like you remember so many details.
Hmm.
Like, it's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I think that the other kind of basic problem that I see a lot of people run into is that when your emotional fulfillment comes from your career, then your emotional well-being depends on your career. And then you depend on your career. Your life depends on your career. And so I think what you're saying is actually like a really simple and beautiful way of just like the more that you separate your career from the rest of your life and the more you start to cultivate other dimensions of your life, you will derive emotional satisfaction from that. And then you will no longer need your career to give you that emotional satisfaction because you're getting it elsewhere, which sounds like a very, very, very healthy step for anyone. So I love the way that you put that. I think it's great.
Thank you. Definitely cleared up my perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any
Thank you.
you want to just tell us where we can find you before we
Oh, yeah, it's twitch.tv/Jinnytty. And currently I am in Croatia going along the coastline.
Yeah, it sounded like you were I watched a little bit of your last stream. It looked pretty epic. Croatia's great.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
So you're anyway, yeah, so you're working your way down the coast. That's awesome. Well, enjoy that and thank you so much for coming today. And it's got to
Thank
be
you.
super late for you. It's like midnight or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 a.m.
So good night and rest up.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay. Does that make sense to people? There's like a lot here that we can learn. Okay, let's go through a couple of like takeaways. So the first thing is when we're growing up, we're not taught where happiness or satisfaction comes from. And so what we sort of learn instinctively as kids is that satisfaction or happiness comes from achievement. Because this is when we get positive reinforcement, right? So if I get an A on a class, my parents are like, good job, little boy. And so then we learn this really, really important lesson early on, which is outward success leads to personal satisfaction and personal happiness. It definitely leads to esteem and respect from others, right? And then we confuse that stuff with our own personal satisfaction. And then what happens is we start to get stuck. Because what that means is how I feel about myself depends on my performance. And so if I do well at work, I feel good. And if I don't do well at work or I don't get promoted, then I feel bad. And now this is the moment at which you surrender the happiness of your life as well as direction in your life. Because whether you get promoted at work is not under your control. Right? There are all kinds of other factors. Your boss, your coworkers, the macro environment, random chance in terms of the company and whether the company is doing well or not doing well. And so the moment that happens, then if you don't feel satisfied, you end up blaming yourself. And you say to yourself, okay, I need to work harder. I need to do more. I didn't get promoted. Now I feel bad. Now I'm worth less. So let me grind even harder. And so then you sacrifice more of yourself. As you sacrifice more of yourself, even if you achieve, the achievement that you get is temporary. Because it's not like your third promotion in life makes you happy for the next 30 years. That's not how it works. Right? No one's like on LinkedIn talking about, yeah, everything that I need to be happy in life happened after my second promotion. Then I was chill and everything is great after that. That's just not how it works. And the damning thing is that when you feel satisfied after a promotion, it reinforces the idea that promotion leads to happiness, that external achievement leads to happiness. Because when have you found happiness when you've externally achieved? Right? So then you go on chasing and chasing and chasing. And so now you're kind of in this situation where you're stuck. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you grind and you get promoted, then you feel good about yourself, but only for a little while. And if you grind and you don't get promoted, then you feel resentful. And then you either feel like throwing in the towel or doubling down. And this is the experience of so many people today, where I don't know if I should be working twice as hard or if I should quit. Half the people that I talk to, they're like, I don't know if I should double down or if I should quit. And it's like, what the fuck? Right? You're talking about two extremes. It's like, I don't know if this dish needs more salt or needs more pepper. And it's like, if that's the situation that you're in, there's a serious misdiagnosis of what brings you happiness in life. You're completely looking in the wrong direction. I'm not saying that you should not strive for your goals, paradoxically, the best way to achieve goals is to get off of this like fucking rodeo of like emotional satisfaction from external accomplishment. So once you can start to look at your job as simply a goal, right? And you are independent of that. My worth as a human being and how I feel about myself is not tied into this goal. That is when you devote the appropriate amount of effort. Then you understand how much effort you need to put in. Does that make sense? Because then it's objective. It's like, okay, it's like to get a 10% promotion, I should put in 10% more work. And this is what I am willing to do. And I'm not going to do more and I'm not going to do less. This is what I want. This is what I'm willing to spend. And then you're in control of your life. Because when you're emotionally tied up into it, your boss is like, yeah, we need more. Yeah, we need more. Yeah, we need more. Well, this person is doing this and this person is doing this. So that means I need to do this. And now you're putting in 50% more effort, 60% more effort, 100% more effort for what kind of gain? 10% gain, maybe. This is a core tenet, by the way, of Stoicism. And in Sanskrit, it's called vairagya. To detach from your life, right? To recognize that you as a human being are independent of all that crap out there. Because the moment that your emotions and your worth gets tied into it, you surrender the control of like your effort and your ability to like set limits on things. Then what happens is you end up burning out, right? Because now you're like devoting 100% effort for like a promotion that comes with a 10% raise. And then you don't get it. And now you're like, well, screw it. Why did I do all that crap anyway? And then you feel bad about yourself. And then you vow to yourself that you should quit and never again. And now I'm going to join the anti-work movement. And then you become resentful. But even that is the same problem because you are still letting your resentment dictate your actions. As long as your emotions are dictating your actions, you're in big trouble. Right? And people are saying anarchy, hell yeah, and anti-work. I mean, so I think there's some value to that, but I think that the core problem is oftentimes exactly the same. It's just in the opposite direction. Right? And the most successful people are the ones who are able to, and when I say successful, I don't mean just materialistically. You can be super materialistically successful and sacrifice your happiness. I don't think that that's the most successful. What I'm talking about is like being happy and being materialistically successful. But you shouldn't let resentment dictate your actions, nor should you let insecurity dictate your actions. Fear, abandonment. Yeah, so when someone's saying bad working environment and low wages are a thing, though, absolutely. Right? So here's the problem with anti-work, or not the problem. Here's why anti-work is a thing. What happened is companies figured out how to be predatory on people's dissatisfaction. This is why working conditions have gotten so bad. Companies figured out that a human being's self-worth is tied up with what I give them. And so now when I say you lose destiny over your life, when your emotions get tied into work, the loss of control, you lose control. Who gains control over your life? The company does. Right? So anytime like you give up the reins, someone's taking them. Right? So they figured this out. I don't even know that they know what they figured out. But they sort of figured out that, okay, like there's some amount of like dissatisfaction that we can breed into people. And if you breed into them like dissatisfaction and like I control their satisfaction, then I can get them to behave in the way that I want. And we see this all the time, like in academia as well. So academia is just a really, really interesting place where there's just a lot of like weird artificial like value, where people just generate like all these like titles and things like that like it matters within academia, but to the rest of the world, it doesn't matter. So we see these kinds of systems develop. So I'm not saying that there aren't legitimate complaints out there, for sure. But I still think that there's a lot of people in the anti-work movement who are full of resentment. And if resentment is dictating their actions, I don't think that's going to end well for you. If any emotion is dictating your actions, that's not going to end well. Now, I think emotions are very important for your actions. They can motivate your actions. That's very good. So if you're feeling resentment, for example, you should listen to that, because that is your brain's way of telling you, yo, we're getting a bad shake here. This is not a fair deal. And so then you should really listen to that and think about it objectively. Don't let the resentment run the show. Then really think to yourself, what am I worth? What are people giving me? And work on it from there. What is supposed to dictate your actions? Generally speaking, an egoless intellect. Egoless intellect is what should dictate your actions. Or a couple things. One thing is your values should dictate your actions. And then ideally your values being implemented by an egoless intellect. Right? So what does that mean? That means that, so let's talk about egoless intellect for a second. So ego, or ahamkar, so we're using the Sanskrit definition of ego because I think it's better. It's just a different, I think it's a critical thing. So if we look at the West, the basic place where Western psychology, I think, is missing something is when it comes to ego. So if you look at cognitive behavioral therapy looks at the relationship between thoughts, emotions, and actions. But they're missing something in their triangle, which is ego or identity. Because your thoughts and your behaviors are going to shape, and your actions are going to shape your sense of self-identity. And your sense of self-identity is going to shape your thoughts and your actions and your behaviors. And emotions, right? So I think ego is the big missing thing in Western psychology. So let's understand, what is ego? Ego is when you say I am ... anything that comes after the I am ... is part of your ego. Anything on your resume is part of your ego. So ego is a construct. It is not actually who you are or what you are. So I can say that I am a doctor, but that is not a real thing. You can't biopsy me and find a doctor. You can't x-ray me and find a doctor. I was me before I was a doctor, and I'm me after I was a doctor. So how can being a doctor be a part of who I truly am? What it is a part of ego, right? It is a construction that I wrap around myself. And the really interesting thing about this is once you discover that I'm not really a doctor, I wasn't born a doctor, and who knows, I may or may not die. It's just an artificial construct. It has value, don't get me wrong. So the ego serves a purpose, but it's not truly who you are. So then the question becomes, okay, well, who am I? And the cool thing about that is, if anything that is related to ego is not who you are, it's incredibly liberating. So I'll give you all an example. So from a yogic perspective, someone who believes that they are a failure has a big ego. And you may say, well, hold on a second. What is that like? I thought people who are failures have small egos. No, their sense of self is very strong. I am a failure. They're like a failure with a capital F. And that's a defining part of who they are. It's a huge part of who they are. So their ego is actually quite large. It is the ego of failure or success or whatever. I am a doctor. I am a failure. It's still I am, and then a very big thing. And then think about how that shapes their thoughts, their emotions, and their actions. When an opportunity arises, hey, I really think that you'd be a great fit for this job. Or, hey, I heard that so-and-so has a crush on you. You should really think about asking them out. And even if you're attracted to that person and you want that job, your ego will step in and it will say, they wouldn't take you. You'll screw it up anyway. they're not interested in dating you. So your sense of self defines the way that you interact with the world. And there can be positive aspects of ego as well. Like, I'm a great person, right? I'm the best thing since sliced bread. And then you can walk into places, you can be like, yeah, I'm definitely going to get promoted because I'm the best and I'm so much smarter than this other person. I'm so much better than this other person. And then what ends up happening to that person gets screwed too, because when they should be working hard, they assume that they're smarter than everyone else, so they half-ass their effort and they don't end up getting what they want. The key thing is that ego is subjectivity. In the West, what we refer to as subjectivity is ego, right? Is your subjective modifications. Now, how do you know that the ego is active? The yogis taught us a really, really simple way to detect the action of ego: comparison. So anytime you make comparative statements, that is the action of ego. This other person would be able to get this job, but I would not. This other person is smarter, but I'm this. But this person is this way, I'm this way. And so if you sort of think about it, even if that is objectively true on some level, right? So the ego is not false, it's not delusional, it's just selective. So there's like, it doesn't paint a full objective picture, it paints a partial picture. Right? So ego is kind of like statistics. So I once had a statistics professor who said, statistics are like a bikini. What they reveal is enticing, but what they conceal is vital. And ego's the same way. Ego gives you a lot of the information, but it leaves out key portions of the information. And it's in that we make our critical mistakes. Right? Because when your ego tells you, oh yeah, this person wouldn't go out with you anyway, you're a loser. But your ego is conveniently leaving out that you got information that this person actually has a crush on you and is interested in dating you. But the ego is like, nah, we're going to just push that away. So egoless intellect is how to make good decisions in life. That's what should be in control. You can even acknowledge that, hey, I'm disadvantaged in these particular ways. But when your ego is out of the picture, disadvantages become problems to be solved, not reasons to quit. This is the huge difference. Do y'all get that? This is like night and day in terms of whether you put your life together or you don't put your life together. When disadvantages become reasons to quit, then you're going to stay stuck. When you step away from your ego, they become problems to solve. They become, paradoxically, not things that make it impossible for you to proceed, but they become your order of operations for putting together your life. I can't get this job because of reasons A, B, and C. Well, we're going to start with A, then we're going to fix B, then we're going to fix C. You can't get the job, but the individual components you can actually fix. Why don't we approach it that way? Because of our ego. Because there's a part of us that says you can't fix them anyway. You've tried and failed. You're a failure. Sounds great, Doc. How do we get control of the ego? A couple of very, very, very important things you can do to get control of the ego. The first is be aware of its action. The most important thing. So catch yourself anytime you make a comparative statement. Catch yourself in your mind. You're going to be making comparisons all the time. I'm making a comparison. I'm defining my identity based on the relation to someone else. Even catching the ego will sublimate it a little bit. Will shrink it a little bit. That's number one. Number two. Let me think about this. Anytime you want someone to think something of you, that is the ego. So catch this second thing in your mind. I want this person to like me. I want this person to respect me. Anytime, you'll also notice that you'll have fantasies where, like, if you have a fantasy and you do this stuff, then everyone will be so, oh my God, that person, oh my God, he's so great and he's going to be awesome. And oh my God, I'm going to be the best. Love me. When your mind does that shit, it's ego. Y'all know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, please tell me that you understand. This is ego. Right? So that's your identity wanting something from someone. That's not actually accomplishment. Right? It is the way that people will see you after you accomplish. Do y'all see that? It's not the thing itself. It's the praise from the thing. So that's driven by ego. Right? So you can want to be accomplished. But there's a huge difference between self-satisfaction of learning how to play a song. Like, I'm going to learn how to sing and play the guitar. Right? And you fucking being in a mountain cabin, enjoying making music by yourself, and you being at a concert where you're on stage and everyone is going wild. In both of them, you learned how to play music. Good job. One involves ego and the other doesn't. So just notice this, okay? And when you notice that, wow, catch yourself thinking this and then notice, wow, there is a part of me that really craves some kind of respect or love from others. There's a part of me that's unsatisfied. This is why I fantasize in this way. Then what you need to do is ask yourself, why am I like this? Where does this come from? Not in a judgmental way. Really just notice that there's a hole somewhere inside your psyche. That, wow, like I really like want this. Like there's a part of me that craves this. Why? Where did this hunger come from? And as you trace it back to the source, which is hard to do on your own. So we have if you look at digesting some scars and things like that in Dr. K's guide, we kind of give you a step-by-step process. This is also the methodology that we train all of our coaches in. So we teach them this sort of like samskara yogic perspective. That there's a hunger within you, and that hunger comes from somewhere. And as you satisfy or resolve or grieve or whatever that internal psychological hunger, the ego will resolve on its own. So that's how you find ego. Can doing things under the motivation of ego lead to healthy habits where the things being done become more valuable? Yeah. So ego is not unhealthy. This is important to understand. Ego is not the enemy. Ego is a tool. That's why we all have one. But just like any other tool, what determines whether it's healthy or unhealthy is who is in control. So you can look at my stomach. The stomach is neither good nor bad, but if hunger and my stomach or my tongue control my behaviors, that is going to lead to unhealthiness. But if I'm in control of my stomach and I recognize that my stomach and my tongue are tools that will help me succeed in life because they signal to me when my body needs calories and they signal to me like what kind of food is healthy or nutritious, that's good. Ika GR is saying a good servant but a bad master is a brilliant way to describe the ego. An excellent servant but a terrible master. Any books you'd recommend on the topic? I wish I could say yes, but unfortunately, so the problem, y'all, with book recommendations is that this is not in a book. Right? This is in all of the books. So, it's just in all the books. And this is not, the other thing is that a lot of this is not in books. If you really want to understand this stuff, like, so there's some parts in like the Bhagavatam, there's some parts in the Gita, there's some parts in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, there's like stuff in Advaita Vedanta, there's like lots of texts that talk about this in the Upanishads, in various Buddhist texts like the Vishuddhi Magga, like it's all over the place. Right? But I mean, what we're offering you is a synthesis. So what's a good meditation to deal with the ego? I was just reviewing these earlier. Man, there's so many good ones. So in general, if you really want to understand how to transcend ego, what you really need to understand is what is the self. So one really good meditation technique, it's something that's not quite, it's not like a formal sitting meditation, but it's something you can do throughout the day. So one of the core problems that we have is that we misidentify with the ego. We believe that we are our mind, usually. Right? So when I say I am a failure, you can't be a failure. A failure is not a thing that a human can be. Right? You can't like x-ray someone and see like failure inside. A failure is a mental construction that you identify with. But I can't do a blood test and find a failure, can't do an MRI and find a failure, right? I can't even look objectively at your life and find a failure. I can find failures. I can find tasks that were not completed successfully, but a person cannot be a failure. A task can be succeeded or failed, but a person cannot. So one of the simplest things that you can do if you really want to start to get a handle on your ego is anytime you make a conclusion about yourself, take a step back and says, my mind says, instead of I am. So my mind says I am a failure instead of I am a failure. And even creating that little bit of distance, if you chip away at it over time, will start to change your perspective. And the second thing that you can do is as you start to do this, notice what your mind is saying. Because that sense of failure is not, it's coming from the mind, right? It is a conclusion. It is a mental construction. And so you can see the mental construction over here, but you're going to be over here. And then what you should ask yourself is, if the sense of failure is within the mind, what is it that's doing the looking? And is the thing that is doing the looking, is that a failure? That's the question you should ask yourself. And that is how you will discover what you are, which is outside of ego. Does that make sense? You have to practice it. Like this stuff is like, I mean, you can learn some of it from books, but it's practice. Right? No amount of watching porn is a substitute for getting laid. No amount of reading is a substitute for actual meditative practice and like exploring the inner workings of who you are. Should I also say like my stomach is hungry? Absolutely. Because that's true, right? There are times where you can say, my head hurts. And there are times you can say, I have a headache. You can say, I'm sick. Or you can say, like, my hand has an infection. Right? We do this all the time, where we move pretty fluidly between where the I is in our being, if that kind of makes sense. Sometimes we say, I feel like crap. Or we can say, like, you know, I have a stomach bug. Like I have a versus I am ... Right? And so we do it all the time. I'm just saying do it a little bit more. So Christian Harness is saying, but it's not your mind that's hungry, it's your body, right? What a fantastic question. What do you think? Where does hunger come from? Right, so this is good. This is what you all need to be doing, really. This is what it's about. Right, so pay attention. So I'll tell y'all something. If you want to learn how to eat healthy and stop eating crap, all you need to do is understand where hunger comes from. Hunger comes from two places. Comes from the mind, comes from the body. When hunger comes from the body, pretty much any food will satisfy it. When hunger comes from the mind, only specific things will satisfy it. When you learn how to tell the difference between hunger in the body and hunger in the mind, then there's a very simple way to eat healthy, which is listen to the hunger in your body, not the hunger in your mind. If you want to understand how to get a clue into this relationship, excellent thing to do is to exercise and pay attention to thirst and see what satisfies thirst. The thirst that you feel after you exercise is a bodily thirst. The thirst that you feel when you watch me stream is a mental thirst. Who am I kidding? That one's bodily thirst too. Great questions today. Really fantastic. All right. All right, we're going to raid SFan because I want to play BG3, but I haven't gotten it yet, and I don't know if I have time because I have to work. But we're gonna raid SFan because he's playing BG3. So let's go BG3. How is it? Have y'all played it? Is it good? Any recommendation on where to start with yoga? If you're looking for a book, read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Get a good commentary. I think Eknath Easwaran's commentary is pretty good. If you're looking to start with a practice, Surya Namaskar is fantastic. It's amazing. It slaps. Okay, I'll try to get it this weekend if I can afford to. Healthy GG OnlyFans. Sounds like a plan, chat. Let's make it happen. How about this? Why don't y'all tell us what kind of content y'all would want on OnlyFans? And if enough people, I don't know, tweet or post on subreddit or something, if enough people are seriously interested in us having an OnlyFans with paywalled OnlyFans content, sure, why not? And take care, y'all.